See, the future of work is really also going towards networking, going towards leveraging AI to do a skills analysis for you to say, okay, these are the skills that you really are good at, these are your strengths, and then also upskill myself. What are the skills that I'm lacking in that I need to build on, and give that personalization, for, how do I build those skills and in a
Right.
faster way too.
Welcome to AI Inclusive, where we explore how AI is shaping the future of business and building a more inclusive, ethical world. I'm your host, Pallavi Sharma, founder of Omni AI Marketing. Today, we're diving into a topic that affects all of us, the future of work and how AI is transforming not just businesses, but how young people prepare for their careers. Joining us is Sirisha Kaipa. Is that correct? I forgot to ask you. Joining us is Sirisha Kaipa, the founder of Dabble, a company helping high school students navigate career and college choices through a fit-based approach powered by AI. We'll explore how AI is changing the landscape of career planning and beyond. Now, I have a child in high school and another one about to enter, and I know firsthand how stressful it is for the whole family, honestly, to be thinking about career and college choices. The statistics are insanely alarming. There's actually a high student dropout rate, as well as the insanity that goes into trying to get into the top colleges. And a significant number of students are also trying to figure out what their majors are before they go into college and then trying to figure it out once they get there. So it's a lot. And now we have AI in the mix that's making things very, very uncertain. In the past, obviously, you could kind of look to, what happened 5-6 years ago and decide on a career that might still make sense into the future. And with AI, there's a lot of uncertainty. So we're going to be discussing how Dabble is using AI to help students find not just careers, but really fulfilling paths that align with the future of work. So Sirisha, thank you so much for being with us today. Could you please just tell a little bit about yourself and both your personal and professional journey that led you to this point?
Sure, yeah. First of all, thank you so much, Pallavi, for having me on your podcast. I mean, I'm really excited to be here and, and doing the thing that I really love, which is to talk about Dabble and how, my co-founder, Madhu, and I have this grand vision to make that high school to college transition less stressful and the way it should be, which is the students owning what's next. And just a brief background. I haven't been in ed tech all my life. I actually have been in enterprise software, just like the millions of other Asians. Right? It's technology was the main driving factor, main attraction when I was going through college, through school, and I really loved doing what I did. And I've had like more than 20 years in enterprise software, building infrastructure, the back end, file systems, high availability products, etc. And it's a big pivot for me from switching from enterprise to doing something in ed tech space. But I am here now and really enjoying it.
And thank goodness for that, because I think what you are focusing on now is very critical, because really the next generation, right, is what matters. And if we're not able to use these new technologies for their advancement, I as a mother kind of feel like we've missed the boat on a greater purpose. So
Totally.
it's really important for us, I think, also to guide students, as you said, about a fulfilling path to life. We live in kind of a society that's quite, if I may digress a little bit, pretty materialistic, and it has to be, because things are so expensive and things are quite out of kilter, I feel, in our society right now. And so really helping children understand that, I know you're seeing a lot around you, but it's really about intellectual curiosity coupled with providing value to this world, right? So you can make a living.
Yes.
That's kind of the ideal
Yeah.
scenario.
In fact, just this morning, I attended a webinar, at 6 o'clock in the morning Hawaii time, but I really liked the topic. It was the College Guidance Network. I think they work with Khan Labs, and they actually were talking about their new AI counseling platform. It's called Ava. So I was really keen on figuring out, what are they doing? How are they doing it? But the bottom line is there is really a need here in this space. And, it's more and more, I am really happy to see everyone is realizing that the students need to be in the driving seat. Parents are the co-pilots, the guidance counselors, I shouldn't say guidance counselors, the school counselors, and independent counselors that exist as well. They are in the back seat, so they are there to guide the students, but the students are the ones that should be in the driving seat. And really loved hearing how Ava is being built by taking these things into consideration. So yeah, so there is a lot of focus on the space right now, so you'll be happy to hear that.
Oh, excellent. No, I'm glad to hear it, and I look forward to checking it out. I hadn't heard of it before, so I definitely want to spend some time on it. And again, selfishly speaking, because my daughter's a junior in high school, and so we're kind of, we're going to be Dabble's most, you're going to be like, who is this crazy person that's constantly on my platform?
Oh no, since we launched, I'll let you know, since we launched, there's been a lot of activity.
Nice.
We haven't done a lot of big marketing yet. I mean, we haven't pulled out the big guns. I think people will actually use influencers. I think even getting schools onboarded, we are going a little bit slower, but it's really gratifying to see the way it's taking off. We've had a lot of downloads, and we do have crazy users going and trying all kinds of things. So you won't be alone there. So
that's what I like to hear. This is so great. Alrighty, so let's kind of get into some of the details of the topic. So the future of work, we're seeing it evolve at this breakneck speed, right? And there's a lot of uncertainty with AI. What's it going to do? Is it going to get rid of jobs? Is it going to add to jobs? So I actually did a report recently. I was testing out this one tool called Napkin AI that I keep mentioning everywhere. And I've actually started mentioning it so much that the founder, and I are connecting in a couple of days. So
that conversation, because I think I got you on Napkin AI.
Did you, there's a, I don't know, there's a woman named Tara.
I know who you're talking about. And she, because I had suggested it on Women.
That's crazy. That is so crazy. So you were part of that conversation.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's becoming a small world. And so, so here we are. But this is so great. Sorry, this is awesome. So the future work, let's go back to that.
Yeah.
So it is evolving, right? A lot of uncertainty. In that report that I did, there is good news that AI is going to replace like 80 some million jobs, but 90 some million jobs will be created thanks to it. And so I think we're going to see a lot of transition in terms of skill set that's required and what work looks like. And so, let's talk a little bit about that. Why do you think, from your perspective, is it so critical for us to rethink how we prepare students for the future, especially with AI in the mix?
I think it starts really at the grassroots when students are exploring, where they want to go for college, what they want to do as a career. And traditionally, what we've seen happen is counselors see students going to college as a stepping stone to careers, and that worked, for all these years in the past, where you just need to get a college degree. It doesn't matter what you did, and then you get the life skills, and then you build on that, and then you find a job. But now the situation's kind of changed so much that any edge you have over your peers is going to make a huge difference in whether or not you get a job, how you build your career. And given that the stakes are that high, the conversation's flipped. Now you have to actually start getting students to start thinking about, what are my skills, what are my interests, what are the careers that really are a match for what I like to do, and then what are the college majors that I need to focus on in order to get to that career. And just the other day I was talking to a high school counselor, and she said, a majority of the students that she was talking to wanted to be an influencer. And she was
Really?
surprised, yes. And she was surprised. And she was like, okay, how do I tell these kids that, look at how many people are on the network and how many really are influencers and how many are really good influencers. And, it's just about that reality check where, students have to understand that they have to have certain skills. They have to be able to do some things in a specific way in order to be really good at an influencer role, right? So, this is where, in that conversation, obviously she loved how, we're changing it with Dabble, with helping students connect with careers they may not even have heard of. And this again ties into the fact that all the new generation of kids, they are on all these social media platforms, Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, you name it, right? And for them, what are the careers that they are getting exposed to? It is influencers.
Yeah.
So, we really have to take charge of this, and we have to have them on an app that's in a format that's specifically friendly for them, where they can explore the real life careers that exist today in the world. And tying into how AI changes things, it's like you have newer jobs, newer careers being created thanks to AI. And how do students figure out all these things? We use AI to figure out what are the new careers that exist in the field today. And, that's how with Dabble, we want to get students that one step closer to exploring the world of careers that exists for them, realistic careers that exist for them, and then plan their college journey based on that.
Oh, that is so wonderful. So I'm gonna, take a different angle with the influencer thing for a second. So when I'm looking at the future of work, I'm obviously a marketer, and I'm looking at the future of engaging with customers and your brand engaging with customers, right? And I think there's gonna be this really strong need for more humanization of organizations, right? So whether that means your CEO going on social media or having like regular LinkedIn posts that are real, not, hiring somebody and then doing some generic kind of post, more videos. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing the rise of mascots and things like that. They're working on AI avatars. So the point there is that there is going to be this need for human connection, and maybe you may not become an influencer in the real sense of the word, where you're just getting sponsorships, et cetera, et cetera. But I do think there's going to be a degree of those talents that everybody's going to need to be able to market themselves. Not everybody, but I guess if you're looking for roles that are going to help you move up, in your career, doing something that allows you to be a lot more visible about who you are, what you think, what you're putting out in the world, that might just become necessary in the new world that we're going to live in. I don't know.
I agree. And in fact, to tie to how we're doing it with Dabble, we want students to learn how to market their skills. You hit the nail on the head there. I mean, everybody has to do that at some point, and it's the social aspect. It's the humanization. We are a community, and whatever we do, it takes a village to succeed and to get to the next level. And it's the same with students as well. And if you see how the next generation thrives on social media, a big factor in that is really their connections. They are on TikTok and Instagram because their friends are on TikTok and Instagram, and they post content because they want to connect with their friends. And take that one step up for the future of work. I mean, it has to be the same way. I mean, I think I do that on LinkedIn today because I want to connect with people who are interested in the same things that I am doing, and want to hear from people who would be curious and want to learn about what I'm doing. And if there's someone that I want to follow, I want to learn from, then that's the way to go. So I see the future of work is really also going towards networking, going towards leveraging AI to do a skills analysis for you to say, okay, these are the skills that you really are good at, these are your strengths, and then also help you figure out how do I upskill myself, what are the skills that I'm lacking in that I need to build on, and give that personalization, for, how do I build those skills and in a
Right.
faster way too.
Right. I know 100%. I think that could be so useful, really, for some self reflection versus whatever a parent is telling you to do, or you're watching somebody on your phone doing. It's like, who am I really? What can I work with? What do I have to work on? So totally agree. And my undergrad degree is microbiology. So it's like, I try to tell the kids, it's like you might end up doing something completely different, but really it's not. And I think that's where it's misguided to look at your education as just a vocation, right? Feel like what I learned in my science classes, I use as a marketer all the time. It's become so data driven, so much testing. I'm like, these were all science concepts, people. A/B testing. It's not a marketing concept.
Yeah, it's all related. It's all related. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what are some of the opportunities that you think are going to come with AI as students are exploring their careers? And I'll lead you on a little bit. I use AI to really personalize the information I want to get. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things that we talk about when we say, when we talk about Dabble, is the personalization angle. And it is literally about learning about the student, understanding their strengths and interests as they start using our platform, as they start working on the app. And I think what you said was, how do you use AI? How do you do the personalization? Well, it's about talking to teenagers today, taking my own example, when we actually did a lot of interviews with teenagers before we started on Dabble, we would ask them the same set of standard questions. What are your strengths? I don't know. You tell me. Or, what do you want to do? Computer science, I guess. I was like, why? My parents are computer science engineers, so okay, that's what I want to do. Or in some other cases, for example, my daughter, she's like, she doesn't want to do computer science. I said, why? It's like, it looks like a very boring job to me. And she's just going off of the fact that, I'm in meetings all day, and the perception that she has of what's a computer science degree and what it leads to is colored by what she sees me doing. And so the personalization angle is more about, uncovering the student's strengths, where they don't know that this is their strength. Uncovering what are their interests or passion, because unknowingly, unconsciously, they may be following something a lot more than they think they are. So you kind of weave it in, and AI can build this framework. It kind of puts all these itty-bitty details of, where the focus is, what are the interests, what are the posts about, what are the articles being read, and kind of project these as new interests, new strengths, new passions. And as the student starts learning more about their own interests based on, it's a reflection of whatever they're doing, but as they start to recognize that, hey, this is really something that I am interested in, but I didn't realize I was spending so much time on. And that's where the story builds up into, okay, if you are interested in these kind of things, then these are potentially careers that match up with what you're interested in doing. Because guess what? These are the skills you would have to use for these careers. Why do we think that this is a good fit for you? Well, this is why. And we kind of put that whole story together for students. So, and it's all bite-sized. So, you pick a career, you kind of read about it, understand, okay, why did this show up? Okay, because AI determined that these are my skills, these are the things I would do on this job, in this role, and this is the amount of money I would make. That's just additional information that almost all students want to know. I want to make the most money. Tell me the careers that make the most money. And then, the outlook. And this is so key because with everything as we know it changing, it's like just the other day, I was just taking pictures of my skin to get custom personalized recommendations for what skin products I should use. Just taking that example out of the gate, it's about understanding, hey, if I do this, if I start to work on this to build my career towards this goal, is that career still going to be viable when I graduate? I don't know, right? So uh, that's where we're trying to use AI to raise that awareness, and also understand that, there are some careers that don't seem glamorous, but hey, maybe you don't know all there is about that career that you got to know. So, we kind of expose the careers to students. And, with the future of work changing so rapidly, like you said, I mean, by the way, that's such a loaded term. It can mean so many things to so many different people, right? It's about, what is it going to be? Is it going to be like virtual? It's going to be a mix, a hybrid, or in person. That's one way of looking at future of work. The kind of benefits, the kind of experience you have as an employee, that could be termed, that could be deemed future of work. And for us, for me and Madhu, my co-founder, future of work is really, how are you preparing the next gen? How are you getting them ready for being productive employees in the workforce of tomorrow, right? And that is what drives us on this mission.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think then that also goes into like what are the okay, that is also bringing up a really important other point is, well, many important points, but two things. One is just the lack of knowledge that children have about what it actually takes to do a particular job, and then maybe glamorizing something they've seen on a show or whatever. I remember when I was going to school, I'm a lawyer going to law school. Why? Because I watched Law and Order. I mean, somebody actually said that to me. And then, to my daughter, I'm like, do you know how boring law can be? Do you like to read a lot of, I'm not a lawyer, but I know a lot of lawyers. Do you know what that day-to-day job looks like? You don't always just get in a suit and get in front of the judge. And so,
yeah.
So no, it's important for them to kind of really get a realistic understanding of what it looks like and not be afraid and look at, all angles of what it's going to take. And, I think that's where it's important, for us to have these conversations with children and give them more exposure, because, most of us didn't have that. It was just somebody kind of guiding us in a certain way, or maybe not, and then you're just figuring it out yourself. But I think it's really important for children to really, as they grow older, go into college, get a more realistic understanding of how they're going to spend their life, and not get anxiety, because as I said, I saw there was some stat a long time ago about how you may have 7 different careers in a lifetime. So you're not necessarily chained to one, unless you go to med school and you have a really, really big debt.
No, even there, I mean, I've heard of stories where they go through med school and almost finish, like, this is not for me. So, yeah.
All right. So, when, as you have said, you're talking to a lot of different students currently and getting information from them. Can you just quickly tell us what are some of the challenges that they're expressing to you, when it comes to AI and the choices they're having to make and the impact on
So I think
the workplace?
Yeah, so I think, so for now, at least in schools, the debate of how much of AI should be used in schools is still, not finalized, or I should say it's not very clear. And, with respect to students, they are aware that a lot of their friends are using ChatGPT. I shouldn't say just ChatGPT, but the whole lot of other AI models that exist today. And some of them do get caught, some of them don't get caught, right? So it's a little bit unfair, and they do call out on that. With respect to AI and the future of work, when we just floated the idea of Dabble, they were keen. They were interested, because till date, they didn't have a place where they could say, hey, tell me what I could do. And they were only used to Naviance. Naviance is another platform which I think a lot of schools use today. And it's also used to help students get an idea of what kind of colleges they should really pursue. But that's kind of not very accurate. I think that's an understatement. But it's because it's all on self-reported data. So where students go and report that these are the schools I got into, etc. And then based on that, if I'm a student at that school and I'm thinking of applying to that college, then I can see what are my chances based on previous students from my school who applied to that college, and what where they stood with that. So when we explained about what Dabble does, one of their first questions was, we had to fill a lot of surveys. Literally like, they're like, wait, is it like
Do you have
that?
to do any work?
No, it's not, right? And then they're like, wait, how can you tell us then? And then it's kind of explaining to them that, hey, when you're on Instagram and you're posting, you're sharing with your friends, and suddenly you're seeing a lot more feed related to what you're posting. I get it. So they know there's learning on all these platforms, and they were so curious about how Dabble does it. And I think in terms of using AI, I don't think they've even gotten there. They've not even gotten started. And I think one of the biggest challenges for them was there were some kids who were really interested in digital marketing. Again, I want you to notice the trend here. All the social media platforms and the career.
I called it first. Did marketing. Here, I called it. See?
Yeah. And then their challenge is my parents are both software engineers, and they have no idea how I could build a career in digital marketing. And this is students whose parents have gone to college, who actually figured out a lot of stuff by themselves here too, right? So take it a notch back to students who are first generation, and they have no idea, right? So they have all these thoughts and in their mind, but their parents are like not at all sure, and they're like, we don't know anything about the space, so what do we do? And we do have one of the schools sign up with us, and we are going to be working more hands-on with them to help their parent community understand how this works, how Dabble works, and how their students will leverage it. But with respect to the future of work, I'm amazed that there are some students who actually have it all figured out. Like, for example, the digital marketing experts or wannabe experts, the influencer wannabes, and in some cases engineering. But then when you try to deep dive into how they figured that this is what they want to do, it's kind of a little bit disheartening, because it's like, my friend does it, or my friend chose this, or I don't know, this is all I know. So that's the conversation.
Like, there's a whole world out there that they're not exposed to and don't realize. And then in some cases, even the parents, have kind of their view of, okay, I just want a stable life for my kid, which I get. And so here are the narrow groups of choices, not realizing that, there are actually quite a few choices that can achieve those goals. It's not just a couple. And this is another random conversation, but you and I, we're South Asian heritage, right? And so I was speaking with an uncle of mine, because I love speaking to the uncles and the aunties, and he was telling me about how when he went to college, he went to an IIT, we were actually talking about colonialism and how there was this British mindset to always look down, right? Always try to find somebody to look down on, that colonial mindset. And when they were at these IITs, it was that same thing. It's a snobbery. And we have that here too. I went to this school and blah, blah, blah. And now some of the wealthiest people in India are entrepreneurs that did not go to the top schools. And so, again, it's like this kind of narrow vision that it's Harvard or bust, or it's, and my dad would tell me what the hierarchy was like. Electrical engineering's up here, and then all the other engineerings are below that. And then if you can't make it as an engineer, you can become a doctor. And if you really can't, you know what he told me once when I was like not sure about microbiology? He was like, well, I guess you could go into physics, but I'm not sure what the future of that would be. I was like, okay.
I mean, you can't blame them, because I think now with all the connections and more of the data sharing that's happening with all these social media platforms, you get to identify that, oh, wait a minute, this CEO didn't really go to an Ivy League school, okay.
Right.
But it's already there in our minds that by the way, there's a lot of misinformation around here too, but it's already stuck in the back of our minds that you have to go to an Ivy school. What do you mean you're not going to go to an Ivy school?
In the age of AI, my God, like I'm, totally questioning everything moving. But there's so much information, honestly, that's available now. I'm even just seeing on LinkedIn, which I've used most of my career just as like a digital resume platform and a way to keep connected. That's it. And now I'm active on it, and I'm engaging with a lot of people who are sharing such amazing, because that's the whole, that's the secret sauce. You're supposed to just share information. And it's incredible how much amazing information is now available for free. It's now up to the individual to take advantage of it, really.
Yeah.
It's no longer that there's a barrier that you can't get that information unless you pay the big bucks. And obviously I'm not saying that there's no place for standard education. That's not kind of what I'm getting at, but I think that there are a lot of ways to get information now that weren't there before. Okay, so we, are kind of have been talking for some time, so I just want to hit some more points before we close. So let's talk about the ideal future. Let's project where AI is integrated effectively, into education and career counseling. If you had to share your vision of what does it look like for students, both in high school and beyond, what is it going to look like when AI is more involved in these decisions?
I think we're going to see students optimizing their potential with AI. The kind of personalization that AI can give. Of course, I'm not disputing the fact that, human intervention or human feedback is important, but with AI as a guide, I think personalizing your choices for you, personalizing your growth for you, there's tremendous potential to see a lot more being done in the workforce. Coding has become so easy with respect to, how do you do all this mundane chores? There's some maintenance code that needs to be built in. With GitHub Copilot, I mean, I've used it. I'm literally floored by how fast it is, how easy it is to use it. I think given that you're able to code faster, you're able to code more intentionally, and you're able to do more of the review to make sure the code is doing what it should be doing. You don't have to go and search for how do I get this thing to work. There's already a lot of options for you. And again, this is all built off of everything that we are sharing. So, sharing is key. And then using AI to leverage all that sharing and personalize it and helping you optimize your potential. I think there's a lot that we can achieve as humans. I mean, I am really excited, and I'm really waiting to see what's the next adventure, what's the next innovation or invention, whatever you want to call it. But I see that this is the future, robotics and AI. I think it's coming.
Yeah, definitely. It is definitely the future. And I think with AI, I've heard it called the revenge of the English major, because now suddenly it's not limited to just, people with the ability to code.
Exactly.
It isn't anymore. It's more about, well, it's not 100% because I don't know how to code other than I taught myself HTML back in the day. So I guess technically I can code. But really, I've tried some of these tools. They're not 100% there yet, in my opinion, the no-code tools. But they are doing amazing things. You can do amazing things with them. They're not just as turnkey as I wish they could be. But it's really incredible what's happening. And if you haven't tried, simplistically going over to Anthropic, right, and their artifact window and just telling you to code something, and there you have it. And you can even see what the output looks like. It's almost instant.
Yeah.
Mind blowing, right? So, I think I really hope there's a lot more creative people that may have felt like there's no place for them come back and say, wait a second, there is a place for me. And
absolutely. I think it drops a lot of barriers, right? I mean, it's the gateway, the entry was gated towards certain careers based on what you're capable of doing. That barrier is lowered now. I mean, if you there is prompt engineering. So there's a degree for prompt engineering. And guess what? I mean, if you have great language skills, you can be a great prompt engineer. So
Yeah, so I did some technical writing when I transitioned into marketing and went from microbiology to doing technical writing at a cryptography company called RSA. And, I was just thinking about the skills we used in technical writing, right? It's like very, very logical dissemination of information. And whenever I'm like training the GPTs, that's what I do. It's like very, very methodical. The more methodical you can be with the information you give it, the output is generally going to be more what you're hoping for it to be. And so, yeah, I think it is a real skill because not everybody has that ability, right? And I know people are kind of laughing about prompt engineering. I'm like, well, if you've tried messing around with these GPTs, if you just like throw in some question and you don't get a great answer, that's because you're a terrible prompt engineer. So don't make fun of people who can do that well.
I agree. Prompt engineering is a skill.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so, one more area I just want to talk about quickly because this is close to my heart, the societal impact. What do you think is going to be the societal impact when you see, some of these concepts that we're talking about where there are more opportunities for a lot more types of people? Would love to hear you talk about that. And also, we have a mental health crisis going on, especially with students. And that is not a laughing matter whatsoever. It's actually deeply concerning. And it's, for me, kind of what I've seen happening in the Bay Area completely changed the way I was interacting with my own children. We live near, not too far from Palo Alto, from Gunn High School, where, not to like close this on a somber note, but there's suicides happening, kind of regularly. This is not the society we want to build, right? At all. So let's now shift back into a more positive mindset.
Yeah.
How do you see kind of AI changing things? And then I do want to add one thing after you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. So when we started to look at how students plan for their future, for their careers, it was all down to the counselors, right? School counselors are really amazing, but they have very large student to counselor ratios in school. I mean, there's 500 to 1, and a recent school that we talked to has 800 to 1. And it's not it's not a laughing matter, right? I mean, it's like one counselor is trying to give the right advice and guidance to 800 students, and it can be a handful. And no one person can do that. And when you take a look at the Title I schools, they have an even harder problem because students are not even motivated. They're not even engaged in that process of uncovering what should I do after high school. And so there really was a need for a platform that would help students literally be in the driving seat of that decision-making process, which is, see what your friends are doing, see what are the careers that are open for you in the future, what are the new careers that are coming up that might be aligned with your interests. In one case, we were talking to a counselor from Title I school, and she was struggling with kids from the socioeconomically disadvantaged backgrounds, and their GPAs are not very high, and they're not engaged. They love video games. So when she tried our app, and then when she put in all the details, it still shows students that there are careers that are possible for them, and it's a kind of a motivating factor. It's kind of an engaging factor where when students see that there are careers that line up with their interests, which is video gaming, they want to play video games. So you could be a video game tester. You could be, and there's a student, she had a student who loves video games and who loves to draw. So you could be an animator, right? You could be a cartoonist. When she saw the output, the results from our app that kind of catered to the student and their interests, she was amazed. And she was like thrilled because she was like, I want to go back and show this to the student and see, would they get more engaged in this process? Would they come meet me halfway in discovering what careers they want to look at, what are the colleges they want to go to, because there is a path for them. So it's almost like when you talk to them about college, their first question is why? Why do I need to go to college? So hopefully, that clarity of seeing what are the possible future, for careers, etc., that's lined up for them or that's available for them, that kind of starts the conversation going in a different way, which is, hey, there are these options for you. What do you think? I mean, do you want to look at what you need to do in order to get there, that roadmap? And I think this is something that the webinar that I attended just before this, CGN, they were talking about a roadmap feature, and that's also part of Dabble. And it's about, how it's more fine-tuned than what they were talking about, but it's like, you have a career and you want to go there. How do you build that roadmap? It's like a Google map. You're a student here, and how do you get there? And then you give a lot of pathways. You tell them there's the shortest path, there's the longest path. This one needs more effort. This one probably not as much. And they can choose how they want to get there. And then, hopefully this will be an engaging and a motivating factor for them to get involved in this discussion. So in terms of the societal impact, when you look at students that go to these really top-notch public schools, private schools in Bay Area and other areas where the school districts are really crowded and populated, and you look at the Title I schools, and then the not so populated areas, where students are still trying to figure out what careers exist. I mean, there's always this thing that you don't want to stay stuck in where you are, but you want to explore, and you don't know how to. You don't know what exists out there on the West Coast, on the East Coast, you name it. So what I see is a huge societal impact is Dabble will democratize access to this kind of guidance, when it comes to career planning, when it comes to college planning. We want it available and accessible for all students, and AI is helping us do that. Because it's a scale problem. You have a number of students and the parents. They all want to make the best step forward.
Yes, and not everybody has whatever they charge, $50,000 a year.
Exactly.
For a college counselor.
Exactly.
I don't know how much they charge, but it's ludicrous.
Yeah.
No offense to the college counselors out there, but the thing that bothers me so much about that whole model is that it's not accessible unless you have wealth. And so it's just perpetuating this like really insane, unfair advantage. And I almost think it should be disclosed somewhere if you're doing an application through that or something. I don't know. But it's extremely unfair. So, in my opinion.
It's unfair, but I also want to add one last thing there, that even for the independent counselors, right? For them too, it's about probabilities and statistics, and most of them, they work really hard, but then the guidance tends to be more templatized. It's like, you got to do all the APs possible. You got to do all of these things possible in order to stand out as a model student.
Yeah, just do it all and get
exactly.
A pluses, and you'll be
and
fine.
you're paying so much money for that, right? You're paying so much money for that.
So. Okay, so thank you so much for being on this show with us. It's very evident we can just keep on discussing so many things. I really appreciate this conversation. I think it's really important. I'm really looking forward to checking out the Dabble in more detail and working with my daughter on it. I think it sounds amazing, and I'm really excited kind of to just do some exploration with her. Sirisha, thank you so much for sharing your insights on how AI can help students navigate this very complex future of work. And to our listeners, if you're curious about how AI can improve your career planning, or you have children kind of in this phase of life, make sure you check out Dabble at go-dabble.ai. And don't forget to subscribe to AI Inclusive. Leave us a comment below and let us know what are the topics that you'd love for us to talk about in the future. And, join us again as we explore more on the intersection of AI and business. Furthermore, I'd encourage you to follow both Sirisha and myself on LinkedIn, as we're always sharing the most recent findings that we have in our respective spaces. And then I'll also be sharing additional content on WIT Omni's LinkedIn page. So Again, lots of sources of information for you to avail of, so I hope you take advantage of that. Sirisha, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.